Hey everyone, this is Joshua Kirk here with you once again, and now it's time for episode 113 of Album of the Day, in which I am not reviewing one but two albums in this video, and again, this is another review where I'm talking about a couple of records that I don't have physical copies of, but, have listened to and thought I would, talk to you about. And I just thought I would just mesh them together into one little video. So the two albums that I'm going to talk about and the two artists I'm going to talk about are an Australian sort of, post-punk and alternative rock sort of band from Australia called The Drones. We're talking about their new record titled Feeling Kind of Free that recently came out in March, and the occasionally comedic pop and rock project from singer-songwriter from Boston, singer-songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, and entertainment extraordinaire, internet skit extraordinaire, Neil Cicerega, called Lemon Demon. His new record is titled Spirit Phone. Anyway, let's start with the Drones album, shall we? I had never listened to the Drones music before this. But of course, the reason I discovered both these records is because one of my favorite YouTube reviewers to watch, Anthony Fantano, aka Needle Drop. I've been paying attention to his reviews quite a bit lately, and recently, and this year he did review both of these records, and he did really like them, and he actually put them at number 4 and number 5 on his list of his favorite records of 2016 so far, and I thought, well, I like this kind of music, and if he really likes it, well then I'll probably like it too. So I ended up listening to this Drones album on YouTube, and I will admit, I was definitely pretty happy that I stumbled upon it, because this is easily one of my favorite rock albums of 2016. The instrumentation on this album is just, very well performed and produced. It's definitely, got a mix of sort of organic and synthetic elements, because I actually heard some members of Civil Civic actually had a hand in production on this record, which you can see that on some of the moments on here. And the instrumentation is really punchy, explosive, and it's very noisy. It's definitely, it all sounds very loud and clear in the mix. There's definitely there's all kinds of different sounds incorporated in the mix. Experimental rock, noise rock, and some techno even at some points, and things like that. It all sounds really nice on there. Some blaring guitars that nearly blow through your speakers. Some great bass and drum work on here that, have really nice rhythm, and, and plus I like how they sort of, are kind of syncopated to each other as well. Some sort of swelling keyboards, some swelling, eerie, kind of icy keyboards as well, and also some very emotive vocals from frontman Gareth Litter, which, really do sort of, they sound so distinctive that they make you want to pay closer attention to what he's saying, the lyrics. There is some really great lyrical content on this album. Lyrically, it's kind of, politically charged and stuff like that, but not just that, but also deals with, it's definitely kind of personal at some points, probably, dealing with his family a little bit or something like that. that he's definitely a guy with a lot of personality. If you pay attention to his vocals and his lyrics on here, lyrics, one of his best vocal performances on this album is on the track "To Think That I Once Loved You." It's a track that I can tell that he's sort of been through tough times. When he goes into this song and his vocal performance, and he has the vocal prowess to really show that on this track, and I absolutely love that about this song. As well as this track is one of the quieter, more subdued kind of tracks on the record, but man, does it leave a big impression with its emotive vocals as well as some really gorgeous vocal harmonies on the top of that on the chorus of that track. And also some great sort of as well as this kind of sad guitar that sort of swells in there, and sounds really nice on there as well. It's definitely one of my favorite tracks on the album. And also I really like the opening track on this thing, Private Execution. It's definitely one of the most just kind of intense and kind of noisy and kind of thematic moments on the album. There are these blaring guitars and squealing keyboards that open the song up and really do sort of blare in the mix pretty much. And then of course, blare in the mix pretty much. And I think it sounds fantastic. Stick on there. And then of course, you get into the lyrics, which, I guess sort of deal with society and just, sort of, it's it definitely has some pretty socially aware lyrics on this track, to pair with the to pair with the vocals pretty much. Yeah, and I like how he's talking about going straight to DVD, and it's sort of the horrors of today's society sort of leaves him wondering if back in the old days there was any violence or anything like that. So yeah, definitely a great way to open the record. It's some great guitar work on this album, like the real sort of sexy rhythmic sort of guitar lick on the song Taman, Shud, which follows up Private Execution. Another favorite on here, another one on here that I really like. Go on here. Then the band does go for a little bit of a dancey feel on the song Boredom, and man, does that song kick ass. It has some great has some sort of punchy, has a punchy, almost synthetic kind of drum beat, and then there's as well as this kind of as well as this kind of as well as these sexy little bits of keyboards on that track as well. And the vocal performance is kind of weird, but at the same time kind of interesting. Gareth is almost doing he's almost rapping the vocals on this track, doing a slight spoken word kind of thing, or something like that. And plus the chorus on that track is absolute ecstasy. It's so catchy. It's definitely one of my favorite tracks on here, and really does show the band trying to branch out and trying something new. Although I haven't really spent enough time with their older stuff to really delve into huge detail about that, but I definitely will say that. And the song Sometimes, and then there's the song Sometimes, which is one of the more eerie, chilly, more kind of, again, one of the probably quieter tracks on the album, with this just atmospheric sort of colorful wall of keyboards and a kind of a synthetic beat. And also, like Fiona Kishin, the bass player, actually sings lead vocals on that track. It actually kind of sounds like the Drone's own weird atmospheric take on trip hop or something like that. And I think it's a really beautiful track, although not my favorite on the record. And then it closes with the song "Shut Down SETI," which is an absolute explosion. Has some really nice guitars, and drums, and vocals, and the bridge, and some great lyrics on here. And the bridge on this thing is pretty creepy. I mean, it features Fiona Kishin's vocals, and then there are these strings that just kind of shriek that like just shriek in the mix, that sound as if they're inspired by some horror film soundtrack or something like that. They just shriek with horror on there, and plus the ending of this track is just a total noise rock explosion, and it's definitely one of my favorite moments on the album. The drones are just, totally, sort of, tearing it up by the end, with these blaring guitars and kind of off-the-wall drums and stuff like that, and yeah. So yeah, overall, the drones feeling kind of free. It's definitely a very interesting, very compelling, very lyrically conscious sort of record that, has a lot to offer and a lot to really like. It is kind of a challenging listen, but also at the same time it is a very rewarding one, and it's actually quite digestible too. It's an easy to swallow pill. It goes down in just about 40 minutes. It's a kind of a short record. There's only 8 tracks on it, but still, it definitely has a lot to offer in that little bit of tracks and runtime there. So I'm feeling a strong 9 out of 10 for the Drones' new album, Feeling Kind of Free. Alright, anyway, let's go on to the new Lemon Demon record, Spirit Phone. Had never listened to Lemon Demon either, but of course, I did sort of hear about Neil Cicerega and how he has put out a bunch of Lemon Demon records under his belt, and also he's put out 2 mashup albums in 2014 and stuff like that. But Spirit Phone is pretty much my introduction to Neil. You may be familiar with him, not just if you're a music fan, but you may be familiar with him if you're a Harry Potter fan, because he is the mastermind behind the Harry Potter Puppet Pals web show. Pretty much. Never really been the biggest Harry Potter fan, but, so I haven't really heard of the web show or watched it or something like that. But I know he's also done, the Epic Computer Fighters video and stuff like that. But yeah, he's really quite an eccentric, he's definitely, not only does he portray interesting characters on Spirit Phone, but he's a pretty interesting character himself. I mean, I mean, the dude's imagination is just totally wild and creative. And I think you can see that coming through on this new record over here, Spirit Phone. The hooks are really catchy and get stuck in your head for a while. Some very tightly written verses and choruses on here. And also some very strange and creative song lyrical subjects that you're not going to hear in your everyday pop rock song. And musically he pulls a lot from the 80s. I'm talking people like maybe Devo or Gary Newman, some of those weird kind of new wave dudes. And he does pull a little bit from the 90s, too. I mean, if you like a little They Might Be Giants, of course They Might Be Giants are one of my favorite bands from that era. So, so you might enjoy this. And also it may appeal to it. Also, I definitely think, if you're a Weezer fan or something like that, he kind of pulls a little bit from the Weezer playbook a little bit on this album, too. And, yeah, so if you like any of those artists, you're probably going to enjoy what's on Spirit Phone. Now, if I have one sort of issue with this record, it's that it's maybe a little busy. It's clearly a DIY thing in terms of the recording because the production is kind of it is kind of a busy record and everything does seem a little jumbled on top of each other. Although it's not big enough of an issue to keep me from enjoying and absolutely just loving this new album. The album opens up in spectacular fashion with the song Lifetime Achievement Award, which, has, and I love sort of, the references on this track, sort of, Neil sort of talks about sort of the ups and downs of, like, the pop star life and stuff like that. I think it's a really interesting tune lyrically, and also has such a great chorus with just some explosive, punchy guitars and synths, and really great sort of Queen-esque, layered vocals, as well as kind of a weird sort of robotic vocal, in there as well. And the synth solo in the middle of this track is just out of this world. It is just pure ear ecstasy to listen to that. That for sure. And the song closes out in kind of a weird way with kind of a PSA where Neil is basically saying that due to his strong convictions, he wants to say that this record does not endorse any belief in the occult. It's cult, he's like, it's kind of a robotic vocal where he's saying that, which I think is kind of ironic because I think there maybe are some occult themes going on in this record, but hey, it's supposed to be kind of a surreal listen, right? So I love the track that follows that, probably even more. The song Touch Tone Telephone. The hook on that thing is just so earwormy, just so catchy. I just can't help smiling when I'm listening to it. These really punchy pianos, some sweet, like, kisses of strings that are kind of worked into the hook as well. And lyrically, the song is kind of about supernatural calls, like sort of getting phone calls from people like beyond the grave or something like that. It's kind of a strange song subject, but he does create a pretty awesome song out of it, pretty much. And plus, he throws out references to like Robert Stack and Leonard Nimoy like it's nothing, pretty much. And plus, some really great sort of layered vocals on here, like my touch tone telephone here. And then the song Cabinet Man that follows that is kind of a strange but humorous kind of lyrical subject to it seems to be about this this guy who gets sucked into an arcade machine and is now half human and half machine and exists in this weird video game world. But yeah, this is definitely one track on here that I really like, because the song subject is just so clever and interesting and, pretty funny. And also, a really great chorus on that track, Also, really great chorus on that track with some rushing synthesizers and, synthesizers and stuff like that. And the song When He Died is another one that's kind of strange. It seems to be about a man who, when the man died, more people, began to discover things and, discover some pretty, frightening thing, began to discover some pretty, creepy things, like, scorpions in his skull, and a creepy painting of a clown. Ugh. Or something like that. But also, this track is really catchy. I mean, the synth leads on that track are easily some of the most, earwormy on the record, pretty much. Like, And the song Sweet Bod is one of my favorite tracks on here, but also kind of one of the more unsettling tracks on the record. Neil seems to have an attraction to like this dead body, like not like having sex with the dead body or anything like that, but rather he wants to like cover it in honey and sweet stuff. He like wants to mummify it in sugar. It's like not sexual, but rather confectional. Ugh. And then there's the song Ancient Aliens, which, yes, that's kind of what it is about. And this track has like just some of the most searing kind of synth leads going on this track. Haven't talked much about the guitar work yet, but there is some really great sort of snazzy guitar leads on this album too, like on Cabinet Man, for example. And the song Soft Fuzzy Man is another one on here that I really like, which, if a soft fuzzy man really does exist, well, that's cool, sign me up. As Your Father, as the song As Your Father, I Expressly Forbid It is a track where Neil seems to be, like, playing his dad, where, like, his dad is getting mad at his son for, like, talking about the internet around his grandpa, because his grandpa doesn't know what the internet is and he doesn't care, and, telling him not to bring his Game Boy to the table, and also, getting mad at him for, like, stealing his medicine that he keeps, that he takes to keep his hair. Pretty funny track, with some, and it definitely is one of the more kind of, punchy tracks on here. Some pretty, so, like there are these roaring guitar leads and this bubbly synthesizer, and I love, and this is probably the only time on a song you're ever going to hear someone yell, "As your father I expressly forbid it," on a pop rock song. The song I Earned My Life is one of the more personal tracks on here, but I do really like this track as well. It's got kind of a bright, sunny, beach rock kind of feel to it, and it has one of the most detailed and best choruses on the album too. Then Neil dives into the topsy-turvy world of economics on the song Reaganomics, which, where he sort of talks about how if economics were up to him, everything would be free, and, there would be no worries and stuff like that. Plus, this is also one of the only times this year you're gonna hear somebody sing, "Deregulated, baby." And the closing track on this album, Spiral of Ants, is another one that's a pretty creative, but also kind of somber, kind of lyrical sort of theme. I mean, this one does deal with death, but not like human death, but rather ants. It's a song basically dealing with ants sort of coming into the spiral and dying, and it can be humorous, but at the same time it is pretty kind of melancholy as well. But, I love that about this track, and also, like, it is a pretty catchy track too, and it definitely is one of the more epic moments on the record, and, it definitely closes out the album on the best note, pretty much. So yeah, overall, the new Lemon Demon record, Spirit Phone, is easily one of the most sort of nerdy and witty and one of the most catchy pop rock albums of the year. It definitely, some of the best hooks I've heard this year, and easily some of the most imaginative and kind of cartoonish lyrical content that I've heard this year. So yeah, Neil definitely nailed it with this record. I'm feeling pretty much like a strong 8 out of 10 for the new Lemon Demon album, Spirit Phone. So anyway, that wraps it up for my album reviews of The Drones, Feeling Kind of Free, and the new Lemon Demon record, Spirit Phone. And I'll see you for episode 114.